Now, much like a video I did last week, I'm again going to more or less make some final predictions to a few questions that I at least am very eager to have answered by episode 8. And those questions would be, are the Force Ghosts still around? Which ones will show up in episode 8? And what part will they play in the new movie? And just like the last time where I asked about Rey and what you think her origins are, afterwards I'd again love to hear from all of you and read your predictions in the comments below about these new questions. And once The Last Jedi comes out in a few months, I will revisit this video and see how right or how wrong we all were, and if anyone got it exactly right. And speaking of that last video about Rey, let me quickly say thank you for all the responses, which there were a lot of. And even though I didn't respond to many of you, as I usually try to do, I did read them all and there were some fantastic answers, and again, I look forward to revisiting that question and your answers in a few months' time. Anyway, let's look at those questions about the Force Ghosts, starting with, are they even still around? And the obvious answer to that is yes, or at least Obi-Wan Kenobi is, because we hear him speak directly to Rey in episode 7. And if Kenobi is still around, I'd say the other three, those being Qui-Gon, Yoda, and Anakin, are also still around. Though of course, poor Qui-Gon never learned how to fully manifest like the other three did. However, whereas a lot of people seem to want to point to Kenobi speaking to Rey being evidence to support Rey being his granddaughter, well, I've always just seen it as him trying to direct a new student, and maybe a very important one, to Luke, who has clearly lost his way in some respect. I mean, no one thought it implied some type of family relation when Obi-Wan told Luke to go to Dagobah during The Empire Strikes Back. And I really think this ties into the role the Force Ghosts will play in the new movie. They want Luke to train Rey so that the Jedi can continue, even though, if the teaser trailer is to be taken at face value, Luke now wants the Jedi to end. And as I've said in previous videos, I think Luke is, for a lack of a better way of putting it, refusing the visits of the Force Ghosts and doesn't want to hear from them anymore. And I think that might be because, in some respect, Luke blames them for not warning him that his nephew Ben was going to fall to the dark side and destroy his new Jedi Order. I think this may also have a lot to do with why Luke thinks the Jedi now need to end. He doesn't want to play their games anymore or be a part of it all. It has brought him nothing but pain and suffering his whole life. And the reason why Luke looks so upset when Rey shows up on the island holding his father's old lightsaber is he knows they, meaning the Force Ghosts, have sent her to him and want him to train her, that they insist he pass on what he has learned yet again, even though it failed him horribly the last time he tried. And the worst and hardest part for Luke will be, especially as he gets to know Rey throughout the course of the movie, is he will find she is a lot like he used to be. And I think Luke will spend a good portion of the movie refusing to train her and trying to dissuade her from this path she has chosen. But I think Rey will refuse to give up, and she'll hang around and even try to train herself somehow, while Luke will, more or less, mostly ignore her and tell her she has no idea what she's doing or getting herself into. And I think at some point, mirroring The Empire Strikes Back, Rey will have a vision of her friends, most likely Finn, in danger, and she will tell Luke she is going to help them, which of course will remind Luke of his decision to leave and help his friends once upon a time. Luke will warn her it's a trap, but Rey will go anyway. And I think this is when Anakin's Force Ghost, of course played by Hayden Christensen, shows up and has a father-son talk with Luke, and Anakin tells him that Rey is about to learn the truth of who she is, and that truth may turn her to the dark side and end any hope the Jedi have left. And Luke, unlike Yoda once did, will go after her and try to help and save her. Now, even if I'm dead wrong about how it'll all play out, which I probably am, we again do know that, thanks to Obi-Wan speaking to Rey in episode 7, the Force Ghosts are still around, and I have to imagine will show up and have a part to play in the rest of this trilogy. In fact, I think it would feel odd if we don't see more of them. After all, Obi-Wan's line to Vader in A New Hope about how, if you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine, is one I'd love to have touched on more and explained further. And sure, just becoming a Force Ghost and seeming to be able to exist forever is pretty powerful on its own, I suppose. And we also learned in Season 6 of the Clone Wars, when we saw Yoda being trained by a strange priestess to eventually become a Force Ghost, that it is considered the great gift. But what is the real importance of it? I mean, yes, Obi-Wan did seem to help Luke in A New Hope when he blew up the Death Star with some words of wisdom, more or less. And again, Obi-Wan did direct Luke to Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back, which was obviously very important. And again, he seemed to do the same for Rey, directing her to Luke in The Force Awakens. But what are Force ghosts really supposed to do? Do they just usher future Jedi to their destinies and those who will train them? Or is there something else they do? Some other important role they fill that we've yet to even learn about? And if there is, this is what I would love for the rumored big reveal to involve in The Last Jedi. And my guess for what that could even be is that they somehow counterbalance or even battle the growing power of the dark side within the Force itself, which does sound like a bit of a stretch, granted. But we have learned in the Aftermath series that there is some sort of dark side power that exists in the unknown regions of the galaxy. We've also learned in those books that the dark side leaves some type of residual stain on items that once belonged to powerful dark side users, and in particular, worn items like masks, for example. So is it possible that, over time, the dark side has been growing ever stronger due to its corruption of the Force itself, and that this dark side power out in the unknown regions is the culmination of that corruption, and that the true purpose of the Force Ghosts is to try and do something about that growing threat? Does it also have something to do with why the Force has awakened? Will this new sequel trilogy begin to focus more on the battle of the Force itself, if you will, instead of just those who wield it? I tend to think and hope that it will. However, you might completely disagree with me here, so now it's your turn to let me know what you think. Will we see Force Ghosts in The Last Jedi? And if so, which ones and what part might they play? And in just a few short months now, once The Last Jedi has finally come out, I'll come back to these questions and make another video and see just how right or how wrong we all were. So again, please leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.